See, it's preparing. Hey, Troy, how you doing? Okay, I think we're ready to go. And so let's see what we've got going here. Okay, we are ready to rock and roll. Let me start the. Before I do that, let me go here. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dennis Wilborn with the Active Trend Traders. Joining me from Honolulu, Hawaii, of course, is Steve Ferreira. Steve is a retired professor from the University of Hawaii. And so Steve, how are you liking being retired from teaching and just trading for a living?
Hello?
There, I unmute. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I wasn't sure you had heard me. Absolutely, it's absolutely marvelous. It's fun.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you so we'll get any background noise, and then. But I am glad that you are joining us on the weekend. We are basically looking at, going into the last 2 months of the year. It's been kind of a crazy kind of year. I found this quote by Peter Brandt. Peter Brandt's a really good thinker about the market stuff. And he says, if there's a secret to trading, it has very little to do with trading identification. In other words, identifying where you get in and where you get out. What it has more to do with is overcoming human pitfalls of fear, greed, and false hope. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And so that's what we try to do with our session that we do every Friday for about 15 minutes or so. We want to highlight some good stocks that are that have some potential of moving going into next week, but all the time also we want to identify, like last week we identified, price action was moving higher into the Fed. The Fed was Wednesday of this past week. And what did we get? We actually got prices moving higher after the Fed. And so there wasn't a lot of backwash like we would normally expect coming out of the Fed. And so that's kind of interesting. But we'll take a look at the individual indexes to see, has the rally reached its extent for a little bit? Do we need a pullback? Those are all very excellent questions we need to be asking going into this weekend. As we see, oftentimes October through November into December is a time when we get a really strong run in both the NASDAQ, the Russell, and also the S&P. And so will we get a follow through on this year? Last year, of course, you probably remember, we had a huge sell-off in October, November, into almost all the way into December. Well, it was into December. We got our Santa Claus rally kicked in last year, the day after Christmas. So here's where we're sitting as of about 9 o'clock this morning, up about 23% for the active trend trading system. We were we took a hit on our trade that we were doing with Tesla in our strategy 3, which was a income strategy. And so we had to regroup a little bit. We are now trading only 2 strategies, strategies 1 and 2. Strategy 1 is for stocks and ETFs. Strategy 2 is applying some just a couple of very simple option type strategies with that. We also, by Saturday morning, I have basically gone through over 500 of the IBD best stocks that show up on the 13 watch lists that IBD puts out. And then I rank them, I pull them out into what I call my power ranking of stocks. This gives you an idea of the stocks that are getting the most attention going into the weekend. And it gives you a very short list. And if you are a active Trend Trader member, either premium or the free membership, you can get a hold of this particular list and also my running list, where I keep track of every stock that's been on the IBD 50 since the beginning of the year. Those are our elite watch lists that we put out on a weekly basis after I've done my sort on them. If you do want to make a comment or ask a question, please feel free to drop it into the chat box on your control section. So let's get in and let's take a look really quick at what the indexes are doing with us, are doing to us. And I think I'm going to start in reverse order this week, Steve, and there's a good reason for that. Is one, we've got IWM, which is the non-leveraged ETF for the Russell, pushing up towards this old resistance at 158.79. That resistance has been very strong going all the way back to February of this past year. When I compare that directly to the Russell, as you can see, Russell, similar type situation. It has a strong level of resistance that's somewhere around the 1590 area. And if we break out above that, then we can extend on up, and the price action should take us back up, technically wise, up to that 1700 level. And IWM, that would be an equivalency to up here about 170. What's very interesting, Steve, I find this is really interesting. If you will take a diagonal line, let's just take a diagonal line. I'll turn off the the snap to feature. If we take a diagonal line from the lows here, where it was basically this range, up to the high area, and we grab that, activate it, and this is a good way to measure on a technical standpoint. If we break out of this level, what's the upside potential on it? Well, from a technical standpoint, the top of this would be here, which is about $71. On the flip side of that, if we take this, I'm going to duplicate that, and I want to pull it down to the lower section, where if it broke out the bottom, look where it's likely to go. Well, it's likely to go, if it breaks out to the bottom, right down to around the lows that we're hitting in October. So Russell acting in a range. We get a breakout to the upside, we could push on up. It could also just say, you know, I'm close enough to the resistance right here to say I want to do a little bit of a sell-off. And then I'm going to be watching for what's it going to do when it gets into this box kind of in the middle of the range. If we get a reversal there, that is oftentimes a classic reversal signal for an upside trade and a continuation to the upside. There's a lot of positive things going on in the economy. We are still a little bit news driven due to the Chinese lack of a Chinese deal. But a lot of other things are really coming in very nicely. Look what happened with the Qs representing the NASDAQ. Going into Wednesday, we got a nice pullback back to the breakout area, 195.55. You know, I didn't have the Wavels to take a trade right there simply because it was Fed day, but it turned out to be an excellent place where bouncing off the 195.55 level would have been an excellent place to go ahead and jump on a trade, riding it up to the upside. And we're getting a really positive reaction. Our upside target, if you will, is up about 200. Notice that the Qs are running in $5 increments, approximately. $5 range, slow down, bounce around in that $5, bounce up. Similar thing, either up or down. So our next upside target is somewhere between 200, 201. And last but not least, let's go over to SPY. SPY still bouncing on up. I did, well, my wife tells me I shouldn't put the Fibonacci's on here, but I put them on there anyway, because I figured, you guys are sophisticated guys and ladies, and, you shouldn't, a Fibonacci should not freak you out, hopefully. It's going to freak me out if I can't get rid of that. Excuse me just a second. Let me remove that drawing and I can click that out. Well, maybe I can't. Anyway, as you can see, I've got two major things going on here with SPY. We had the expanded top coming along here, and we have just, matter of fact, we have kind of topped out the top of that, or it's really close, as you can see. So that's one level of resistance. And right above that is the 1272 extension, which also forms a resistance area. So somewhere between where it's at 306 up to 307.50, I would say look for perhaps a reversal back down to the downside. So Steve, that's all I've got on the indexes. You got any comments on the indexes, and what stock did you want us to be checking out right now? Don't forget to unmute yourself. There, you're unmuted.
Okay. Don't have much to add regarding indices, although in my opinion, in terms of an opinion, I'm very bullish now with the breakout that just occurred this week. And I would use pullbacks in any of my positions, pullback setups for adding to or taking new positions.
And I absolutely agree with that.
Okay. I don't have a specific trade for today, although I can give you a name that I'm stalking for a potential entry on Monday or Tuesday next week.
Okay.
I was very much interested in RH, Restoration Hardware.
Yeah.
I thought today would lead to an entry. We had a reversal bar yesterday.
Right.
And I thought right at the 20, and I thought today might be a long entry, but it has not worked out. We did not take out the high, so there was no entry. I usually have a standing stop order above the high of reversal bar for long entries, and it didn't trigger. If we set up for a long entry tomorrow, I would hope, my guess is we'll probably test the 50 MA now that we've broken down. And if once we show any potential for holding, I'd be looking for a long entry.
Okay. So what are you taking as your potential for holding? If you want to share that with folks.
It would hold between the 20 and the 50 MA.
Okay. So basically, if I was to draw a trend line or draw a line in here, and I'm just gonna, and that would be an excellent place too, because that's been previous levels of support. So there, about somewhere, about 170 or so, maybe down to 169.
Yeah, and I would look at the price action that occurs at that level. Again, I would like to see a tail bar of some sort come in.
Okay.
At or around that level, probably the following bar would be my entry. Okay.
So when you say a tail bar, what you're talking about is like this was a tail bar. It had a nice long tail on it. That's an indication that buyers are coming into the entity itself. And so, hey, I wanted to you've over the last couple of weeks, you've also suggested SEDG.
Correct.
And I know you got into this one.
I got in and I got out 3 days ago.
Okay.
When the tail bar on approximately, I forget the date now, but yeah, when that tail bar, the bar before, when that tail bar got taken out, when we broke that low on that bar, so I forget the numbers, but right around that level was my exit. Yeah.
So you entered about over here, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so you got a little bit of a profit on it.
Made about 2 points.
Okay. So nothing wrong with that. And then we got into the trade with you last week on RLST.
Yeah, and I got stopped out and I re-entered again yesterday.
Yeah, and that looks very much like that could be a very wise thing. I mean, it wanted to come down here and test the 50.
Right.
And unfortunately I did not trigger a secondary trade with that, but it's still, it's looking really good.
It is, yeah. It looks like it'll work out, yeah.
And so
So
cool.
I took a small loss on that trade and then I re-entered the following day.
Now, what I commend you on taking the secondary entries, because a lot of traders they get stopped out for a small loss because they're following the rules, but then they kind of throw the stock in the rubbish can and say, I'm not going to look at that SOB anymore.
Sure.
But you basically said, hey, the story on the stock hasn't changed that much.
Absolutely.
It just was testing. It just had to go a little bit further down to get the retest.
And if you had looser stops, nothing would have been triggered. But I tend to have my stops fairly tight. But as a result, I look for re-entries. Yeah.
Yeah, roger that. Yeah. And I like that. That's a good thing. So thanks, Steve. So RH and did I put SCG? Yeah, I put up the SCG. Right. Yeah, awesome job. I tell you, the stocks you're looking at and picking, I'm really liking. Let me go over here on RH. I just want to show everybody one other thing to just keep a gander on is pop over here to the intraday chart. This is a 1 hour intraday chart. Some people like to use the time frame of 78 minutes. Why is that? 78 minutes. Basically, when you take the cash session for the market, it is 78 minutes. Whoops. And so what that means is when I switch to 78 minutes, all my bar, and I get 5 bars across a full day of trading. So it's something really to be watching for and interesting. And so oftentimes what will happen is you will get the early indication of a reversal off of a good 78-minute chart or an hour chart or even a 2-hour chart. And so I'd be looking, as Steve was saying, here's that 169, 170 level, maybe a little bit lower than that to 169. If we get down into this area, that may be a really good place to trigger into a trade back up to the upside. I would like to see it coincide with a reversal candle over here on the daily chart. But again, that's a great way. You don't have to sit there and watch the intraday all day long, but just be aware of I'm going to get some clue. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
One thing to be cautious about, if you look at the weekly chart, we have a very ugly bar forming this week. It's suggesting a reversal.
Yes,
but again, I would look at that, to what extent that reversal occurs and where it holds. I still like the 68, 69 area for potential reversal to the upside.
Well, and that you bring up a very important point in that, the last time we get a big reversal like this, it fell out of the sky. Sure. And so, hey, if it does, but if it's still in a, if we break that 8-period moving average, which equates to approximately the 50-day, if we break below that, all we can say, hey, we know it's going to find support somewhere. Right. So we just have to be alive to figure out when it is. Cool, man.
Okay.
And so I'm going to bounce back and we'll finish up today's session. Almost on time. No. So let's see. Hey, if you need a speaker for your group, let me know. We can do either in person live here on Island, or we can do webinars. Tomorrow is the Bay Area Moneymaker webinar. We on November 2nd. Steve, when are we meeting with the IBD group here in Honolulu?
We will meet on Tuesday. I'm still in the process of confirming room availability.
Okay, so that's Tuesday, and we meet at 7 o'clock, right?
6:30.
6:30. Thank you.
Okay.
And so we're working this. Premium members, they get 2 live sessions of trading every week, one on Monday, one on Friday. And then if you want to email me, chat with me, just shoot that over there. And then I'm really excited about this, guys. We have put together a trading journal / trading log. One is a mini, which means it's 6 by 9. The other one is a regular size 8.5 by 11. Over 160 pages on each one, 150 pages I put here, but I double checked on Amazon. It is on Amazon. I have sent out the links earlier, but yeah, I really like this. It's got all the active trend trading rules in it. It's got some really excellent cut sheets on doing your journal. And it's got a lot of blank pages to say, okay, hey, just keep tracking, and how to journal. Because a lot of people say, hey, you really need to journal, you need to take care of it. This gives you the ability to do that. I think they're about $14 each on Amazon, which if you go looking for spiral notebooks or spiral journal, you can see that's a good, reasonable priced journal. So check it out. And then last but not least, if you're not signed up for the free weekly Elite watch list, get signed up. Just go to that website there. Or actually, if you're not registered on the website, you go to the website, it'll take you there anyway. Last but not least, remember, keep the egg growing. We've got 2 more months of this year. Let's make them not just profitable, but exceptionally profitable with excellent consistency moving forward. If you are a premium member, we'll be joining up at the top of the hour for the final hour. We're waiting for the Fed, everything to settle down from what happened with the Fed, that's in the process of working out. And then we'll be looking at some potential trades going into next week. So with that, I'm going to say aloha. God bless everybody, as you say. My neighbor took this picture. That's absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, aloha, trade well, prosper. Have a great weekend. Mahalo. God bless. Steve, thanks for joining us, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, aloha, everybody.
Bye.